Some people have very strong feelings when it comes to dating before you are legally divorced. We all have went through some sort of separation at a point, and there is a period of time between the time that you separate from your marriage and the time that you are legally divorced. Separation sometimes means that you are in between. You're working on your marriage and you're working on whether or not you want to remain in that marriage. And so, do you start dating and bring someone into your life at that period, or do you wait until you have completely severed the ties with the person that you have committed to being married to? We are both Airbnb hosts. We share some of our life as well as our travel. And right now, we're in a weight loss journey. But today we want to discuss about a little of our history and what happened in the beginning of our relationship. We are both divorced. We have been divorced once before. And when we got together at different times of our divorce. Richard was 100% legally divorced, and I was separated. We were friends prior to my separation, and I also knew him while he was legally married. And so today we want to bring to you a little bit of our experience and what we thought and what we went through to start our relationship. So Richard was divorced before me, and he was separated way before me. How long were you separated before your divorce?
Man, it seemed like a lifetime. No, I was playing. No, it just we were separated for a while. Because you got to go through paperwork, all the courts, and
When you were initially going through your separation, did you think that you would just go out and start dating? Was that something you thought of doing?
most of the time, you're sitting home and you're trying to figure things out. You're always asking yourself, what happened? What did I? How could you get better and better yourself to move to the next stage in life? Or, but that's where it was. It wasn't really about, first thing, I'm out, like I'm free now, like I can go date and start talking to all these people and everything like that. No, I think people tend to sit back. You kind of get in your mind a little bit more. You try to find yourself, find a way to, like I said, love yourself, love your child if you have a child, but you can't love you can't love anyone else without loving yourself. So you got to learn to basically know what you want, how to get better in the lifestyle that you're gonna living, and what's to come in the future.
I know for me, I was separated in July of 2012, and we didn't start dating until October of 2013. So there was a long period of time while I was separated that I did not date. And I can say that me going through my separation, just initially going through my separation, I cannot say that dating was at the top of my priority list. I can't say I was more concerned about restarting my life. I had three children that I was concerned about and making sure that they were emotionally, spiritually, and physically okay on every level. And it was going to be a big change. So I was more concerned about what was going on with that than I was with dating. I felt that dating would bring more confusion than what we had already went through. However, over time, uh, my kids were saying, "Hey, it's time for us to get back to a little bit of normalcy for mom to also have a life and not just live for us." But my kids were older when I separated, and yours was younger, so there was absolutely no opinions on that side. And so, I I didn't think about dating. I did know that it would come at some point. I did talk to people, but I also was in therapy with my ex at the time. Although we were separated, I was in therapy with my ex, and so I did not feel that that was a fair thing to have a dating life, but I had, one foot in, and we're talking about things, maybe, maybe not. Even though, yes, I was very hurt and frustrated at the time, and emotions were everywhere. I was not healthy enough in any level to date. So for me, it did not happen initially, but I do have to say that I did date you while I was still legally married. Did you actually date before your papers were inked and signed and everything?
Yeah, when I finally decided that, yeah, I need to get out there. I got to, you know, it really wasn't about dating, but it was just really about just getting out there, see, because you've been off the scene for a minute, so now you want to see what's going on and how things are operating, everything like that. So it wasn't. It was more hanging out with friends, and then it became going out on a date. Then you start worrying, like I said, you start worrying about yourself. I'm not gonna lie, like then you start going to the gym, you want to work out, you want to try to be buff and everything like this. So when you run into the next person, you know, you at your highest standard, you know what I mean? So it was interesting. It was very interesting going out there, meeting different people, seeing how people move, and it was a little shocking on some levels because then okay, you're going out on the first day, you're trying to think, okay, well now we go back to the basics. Are we gonna be, as a man, you want to open the door, you want to be able either pick up the young lady that you're going with or the gentleman that you're going, either they're picking you up and you going out to eat dinner. Who's gonna split the bill? It's stuff like that. You had to stop and think because it was different. Times are different. I mean, you look at stuff now, and before it used to be the guys want to go pick up the girls and everything, and now it seems like some of the girls picking up the guys. So the times have changed, and you have to be rolling with the times and get back into the times that it is.
I can say, I'm going to stop 1 second. For those of you who are watching this, subscribe. Please hit that button at the bottom, comment and like. Let us know if it's something else that you want, or if you guys are also going through the same thing, have heard of it, or someone in your life has been going through dating while they're separated, or they're confused as to whether they should do it or not. Because I can say that we understand all those extra feelings that come along with it.
Hit the button.
Hit the button. Now, for me, I can say that I thought about not really self-esteem, but I thought about I questioned a lot of things that was going on with me because of the failure of my marriage. And so I wanted to kind of get myself back together and just have that confidence in myself, so that when I did go out, I didn't choose the wrong person. I didn't just go out and just, feel like I was desperate and just start talking to anyone. So I was very patient with that. And I also just, for me, I turned to God and just felt that when it was time for me to have somebody, that I would, and someone that would understand my situation, because I would never abandon my children and what they were going through or what they had went through. So I'm not going to bring more issues into the house that I brought peace to, that I had peace in. I didn't want to bring any type of chaos into that house. So that was very important to me on every level, and dating was secondary. So my only experience that I can say as far as physically dating was my husband. And later on, we can get into that. But I'm very conservative with dating and being with different people. It's nothing wrong with it if people want to do that. It's just a me thing. I'm very conservative with that. However, we did start talking and we started to date, and we did not think it would be anything serious. It was just me learning myself again and figuring things out again. And I had not dated in years. I didn't know what that was, what it looked like, what was expected of me. was expected of him. I had no idea. It was as if I was a teenager all over again, trying to figure things out, but being too embarrassed to ask. So it was that situation that I had with my husband, where I did go to him a lot for guidance once I was able to trust him. I had to go to him on so many levels of, okay, is this the right thing? Should we do it this way? You know, would I bring you home, which is a totally different story. So dating for me was nerve wracking. I was probably overthinking a lot, but I can say that once I got into the point that I had peace of mind and I knew that my relationship with my ex was broken, I was okay with moving forward with dating. However, it slowed me down with completing my divorce because I was so comfortable in my peace and so comfortable in the way life was that the last thing on my mind was a divorce, was signing papers and going through court and children and separating assets. So I I can say for a fact that I kind of pushed that to the side, and we were dating, and it was Richard that was like, "Hey, you know, when are we gonna finalize that? When is this gonna happen?" And it kind of hit me like, "Oh yeah, I am kind of still married, you know, a little bit." And we're actually dating, which I didn't even realize we were dating, and so you know, he encouraged me to end that chapter so that when we move forward, that there was absolutely no type of nothing that would stop us from moving forward if we chose to do so, and if we didn't choose to do so, that it would be something that was over and done with. And so it took a few months because although we started dating in October of 2013, my divorce was not final until November of 2014. So over a year after we were dating, I can say that I filed my divorce papers sometime like July, August, and at that time, it was something that I wanted to be done quick. I was just like, let's get this over with. And so we were done in November. I do realize that more people take longer for a divorce. And so the dating can take a lot longer if you choose to wait. But for us, it was over a year, and that was 100% my fault. Like I said, I got really comfortable in the fact that I did have peace, and I started having a routine, and the kids are starting to get settled, and things were going where they were fine. And I was just like, oh, I'm fine with where it is, without being respectful to myself and ending that divorce, that marriage. And so it did happen. How did you feel about dating while I was legally married?
I mean, at first, you know, it was we were dating to we were friends and everything like that. So it kind of it started off that way because I think both of us was like, you know, we weren't looking to, you know, get into serious relationships where it's, you know, thinking about marriage and all this stuff. You know, it was, you know, us hanging out and just enjoying each other's company. And, you know, a lot of people don't know, but then when you have kids involved too, like you said, my son was young, the girls were older, so that you have to stop and think about their feelings as well. On me, on my side, like I didn't want to, you know, out dating to have fun. I wasn't thinking about, oh, you know, who I'm gonna be with is gonna be serious, and you know, getting my son involved and everything like that. But when you know our girls are older, you know, they're looking at you. You gotta make sure presenting yourself right and everything like that. But it wasn't just me being friends with my wife. It was me, like I was friends, kind of like friends that had a relationship with girls too. And we wasn't, like I said, we wasn't really thinking about how serious it would be. But then over time, when you start to think and you get those bubbly feelings, and everything like that, then you start to think like, okay, well, we can never move forward without closing the other chapter. So then, yes, I started asking, okay, so when is that chapter going to be closed? Because your boy started catching little feelings, whatever. But okay, yeah. Even though I said I've never, but yeah, start catching some feelings, and not just for my wife, but for the kids too. You know, everybody who knows me, I love the kids. So it was it was the growth, and we had to close that next chapter so we can move on.
And the one thing too for us was we were very intentional about the mental health of our children. We wanted to be sure that they were not put into a situation with confusion. I was very um, intentional on not having a lot of men around my kids. I did not want to see them go through me being hurt by one person or disappointed or breaking up, and having them bond with one person and back with another person. And so um, Rich and I discussed a lot of these things before we really got into dating, and we were kind of serious about it. So as a result, we were sneaking around dating for months, like almost a year, basically.
Man,
Almost a year. We were sneaking around. We're gonna tell the story in another video about how we started dating and how we got together. But we were literally sneaking around. We were seeing each other when the kids went to sleep. We were going out away from the house. We were, meeting up at our jobs. We were doing as much as we could without being around the children before we introduced each other as boyfriend girlfriend. If he did come over, it was as a friend, and it would be, I mean, very very casual. There was nothing that would indicate that we were dating or like each other. Maybe like each other, but not dating at all. We purposely did not do that, and to the point where he was uncomfortable with showing that we were dating, and I was starting to be comfortable. And so we had to figure out how to do this, and we did everything in the beginning of our relationship super slow. It was probably slower than most people would do, even though at the time I had teenagers and a fifth grader. It was very slow. And I'm very glad that he took his time and he was patient with me, and that because most people would just jump into it, and you want a companion and you want to do all these things and not really think about what effect it has on your children. And he respected me enough to know that that was very important to me. So I thank him for that. It helped us to move to another level of where we are today. And so for us, I know we've heard from people before that you should not date while you're separated, especially if you have children and the other person is involved, because there's feelings still involved with the prior spouse, and it hasn't completely severed. We've heard that before. We've heard people that are like, man, I left that person, so it's over. And in the eyes of God, it's not over. So, and legally, it's not over. So you do have to sever that. But do you not have any emotional ties to people because you are legally married? And we've also heard financially, you can't get divorced because I don't have the money to get divorced. And so I'm going to stay married, and I'm going to date, and I'm going to, do the things that we do while we date. And that did not enter my mind because I did not have the money to be divorced. But I sat down and did my own paperwork. I filed my own paperwork. I served my own paperwork, because I do feel that if there's a will, there's a way. If someone does not want to be in a marriage or tied to another person, they will end that. They will sever that. And so I will not take an excuse of someone saying that they can't do it, and I was not going to give that excuse to him. That is something that I could not do. We talked about it. He was very serious about it, and I thought about it. I prayed about it. He was 100% right, and I made it happen. And we talked to the kids, and we made that happen. And even though life changed after the papers were signed on different levels, it doesn't matter. It still happened. Um, and I want to say that a year later we were engaged. Yes.
We're gonna say that for another day.
Another time. Yeah, we're not gonna go there. So it was probably 11 months later we were engaged. And so for us, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite when we say, you know, what we did, because what we did is probably not typical of most people. Some people would just, you know, you leave the house and the next day you have a divorce attorney and you're filing papers and you're already ready for a divorce. And for me, it did not work that way. It took a while. And for him, he did his divorce a lot faster than I did mine. So it wasn't like that. And then when people turn around and they say, hey, you know, you don't have to date, you got all these feelings and all these things, I do believe that hurt people. And so it may not be the smartest thing to separate and immediately start dating. There's way too many things going on with you at that time, but it's up to you of how do you feel about getting out there and dating and giving someone else 100% of you and hoping that the person that you had before doesn't have any part of you from their past and what happened with you or what feelings that you may have left over from that person. And we both can say we had feelings that was left over from that last relationship. Even after the papers were signed, there were things that was there. So for us, there's no concrete answer, which we're not perfect, but what happened with us may not have been what I thought was going to happen. It just happened to work out for us. And it's okay to make a mistake. If you start dating and it doesn't work out, it's okay to say that I can, you know, fall down and get back up because you already did it. You went through a divorce and you got through it. So it should empower you to know that you can keep moving forward. You can still do it if it doesn't work out. You can still move forward and you can make decisions that benefit you. And that's okay. So that is it. We're going to finish our video here. And again, like, comment, and subscribe. Sorry.
Hit that button.
Hit the button, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.